Hi, this is Travis from flipwebsites.com, and this video is part 2 of the first step of the due diligence process when you buy websites, checking ownership of a website. If you missed the first part of this video series, be sure to check it out at the URL shown on your screen there. This is a continuation of the first step of the due diligence process, so this might not make sense if you haven't watched part 1. So continuing on then with part 2 of the first step, man, that isn't confusing. I don't know what is. We are talking about trademark ownership considerations. Now, what do I mean by that? Whenever you're buying a website, you want to stay clear of any websites that are built on a domain that contain any potential trademarks. I have purchased websites in the past that have had trademarks in them that I wasn't aware of, and it wasn't any fun. I got cease and desist letters, and I actually lost a website. I had just spent about $1,800 on a website, and 2 weeks later, I lost it because the company that owned the trademark basically demanded that I forfeit the website, or I would be in legal trouble. And of course, I'm not going to fight a big company. I don't have the time or money to do that. So I had to cough it up as a very expensive lesson. So the first thing I look at, and before I even do any of the things that I've shown so far in these videos, is to see if there are any trademarks. Because if there is, I don't even look at the website because I don't want anything to do with it. In this case, in this particular example, South Florida Commercial Properties, I don't see any obvious trademarks. If this website were, MicrosoftRules.com or something like that, Microsoft is clearly a trademark. In that case, again, that would be a situation where I wouldn't even be interested in the website in the first place. So anyway, there's no obvious trademarks in here like Microsoft or anything like that. So that checks out. But the other thing, though, I'll look at or consider when I'm dealing with geo domains like this is I'll want to see if there are any businesses with this name, and I'll also want to see if there are, in this case, this is a hyphenated domain. I'll want to see if there are any domains without the hyphen that I'll have to compete against or that I might lose traffic to. So what I'll do is I'll just go to Google. And I'm just going to type in South Florida Commercial Properties. And the first thing I'm looking for is to see if there's any businesses with this name. And if there was, it would probably be the non-hyphenated version. And as I look through here, I don't see. In fact, here's the website that's listed on Flippa that I'm considering buying, let's say. But I'm not seeing any other listings. I'm not seeing any paid listings. So that's good. That just means, that tells me two things. One, there aren't any businesses with this name, and the domain without the hyphens isn't listed. So I'm not going to necessarily lose any traffic to that domain, or I'm not going to have to compete against it. Now, the other thing I'll maybe look at is I'll do incorporated, just add incorporated to it just to see if that changes anything. Here's the website I'm looking to purchase, so that's good. And again, I'm not seeing anything here that would indicate that there is a company with this name. So that all checks out, so that's good. There's no trademark ownership considerations or worries that I have to think about. And I don't have to worry about, infringing on some business name, or competing with a domain, the non-hyphenated domain in this case, because I'm looking at a hyphenated domain. So everything looks good there. Now, the final step of step 1 of the due diligence process is checking the owner himself. And because we're buying from Flippa, we're considering buying from Flippa, Flippa has what's called these seller profiles, which makes it fairly easy to determine if this is a seller I can trust. And if I go down here to the seller details, I can click on their user profile, and I can get a glance at their history here on Flippa. I can see that they've been a member since 2008, so they've been here for a while. I can see how many bids they've placed on websites, how many listings they've had. And here's their listing history. But the main thing I'm looking for here is their trust rating. Anything over +2 is good. And if I go to the view trust link here, it tells you that his score is comprised of a +8 because he's got a trustworthy phone number, his account's at least 1 year old, and he's got an established LinkedIn account that's connected. And if you add these up, that's a +8. And so that's where you get the scores from. So as you can see, that's why anything over +2 is good, because that means if it's +3, they would have a trustworthy phone number and they've been here for at least a year. So this case, everything looks good. And if I go back, I can also look at the feedback, view feedback history. And this person has not received any feedback. Again, not a big deal. And then I'd see their feedback score here. The fact that that's 0 and there's no feedback, that doesn't concern me because, I mean, clearly this guy's been here for a while. He's done business here and he's got a +8. There's no negative feedback, so everything checks out there. Now, if you were buying directly from someone, again, a private sale or a site outside of Flippa where you don't have this type of a profile to look at, then what we would do is, and I would still do it even with this guy, even though his profile looks like it checks out, is you could take his name, and again, we're going back to the Whois tool, and we just take his name, we're going to highlight it, copy it, we're just going to go back to Google, and we're going to do an exact match search. And we're going to see if we can dig up any information on this guy, any positive or negative comments on him, or just see what we might find. Now, this first one says he's a singer-songwriter. I doubt that's him. As I go to the next one now, he has a LinkedIn account. Now, if you remember back at the profile, it said that he had a connected LinkedIn account. So that tells me that if I click on this, this is probably this guy here. And if I look through, I can see here that he owns a company, a lead generation company, Blue Whale Web Solutions. So it's all internet stuff. This is probably the guy right here. He deals with the internet down in West Palm Beach, Florida. And his site, obviously, that we were looking at is all about Florida. So I can almost be 99% certain that this is the same guy. He uses the username Lead Generator. And again, his LinkedIn account is a lead generation company. So this is, again, 99% sure that we're dealing with the right guy here. So as you can see here, without even contacting the guy directly, I already know who this guy is. I know what organizations he's tied to. I know his connections. And I see everything. And again, if this guy was a scammer or someone that, is out to steal from people or whatever, chances are, he wouldn't have a LinkedIn account. And if he did, he probably wouldn't have a picture. He wouldn't have what appears to be legitimate organizations on his account. And you just wouldn't see this, okay? So all this is giving me really good vibes about this seller. This guy looks like a real professional. And if I look at, let's go view his profile. If I go and view his profile, I see here he's got a Twitter account. So if I go through there and I look at his Twitter account, again, same picture. I can read his tweets, and I can see he's active on Twitter, and then he has got a link to another one of his websites. So, I mean, this guy's definitely a professional, definitely an internet guy. So everything looks on the up and up. So, so far, everything's checking out really well. The domain registration information's all looking good. No trademark considerations to worry about, and the owner himself seems on the up and up. So far, going through the first step of the due diligence process, everything's looking great. So now I feel comfortable going to step 2, which we will cover in future videos.